guys, John Cutton here. I have a couple of minutes after the hours. I have a pretty packed agenda today. So, what I wanted to do today is I just actually had Eric from my office print up a couple of emails that we've received in the last week or so from group members, and I just wanted to share it. I'm not going to share anybody's name or information, but here's an email that I think we actually got just yesterday. And it says, I won't use any names. Currently, I have one starting to study for his insurance license and very focused on getting all exams behind him before the next tax season. We have already met with 2 of his clients and hope to see more this fall. In addition, we have met with 3 partners from blank area, and they appear very interested in finding out how to make this work. They're coming to check out our operation. I have also had a few discussions with a CPA that has licenses with another broker-dealer. He's turned off trying to sell insurance products, and he at first thought all the license expired, but his 766 are still good. He is in the process of transferring over as well. So that is from one advisor in the group. From another advisor, we now have 2 CPA firms, one using the referral fee, $500 for now, and one getting fully licensed. From another advisor, we have 3 alliances so far, and the target goal for this year is 4. And then they go on to ask a couple additional questions. From another advisor, we have 1 CPA, one of 4 partners coming in this Friday. They are committed and want to sign paperwork, and then goes on to ask me what paperwork needs to be filled out. And then a last one, which talks about the names of the firm and basically goes on to say that one CPA is in the process of studying for their exams with the goal of being licensed before tax time, February of this year. And in addition, there's another that is going to start in level 2, which will hopefully change to level 3 this coming next year, and then goes on to ask for some guidance in how to actually work out going from level 2 to level 3. For those of you who are not in the Ameriprise program, level 2 and level 3 are just terms specific to Ameriprise. So those are emails, guys, that I've gotten in the last week or so. So what, again, that shares with me and tells me is that we're continuing to have a lot of success. And hopefully my words are ringing in your ear a little bit. For some of us on the line, our 1-year program is about to end next month, actually. And some of us have, varying periods of time to go. But one of the things you've heard me say a lot is it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. And what I'm seeing is those who really stuck with the program and were consistent in their effort are now at a point 10 to 11 months into it. Some have had early success as well, but that the success is really starting to catch up and the timing is good as tax season is not too far away. So I wanted to share that. I'd like to share some of the successes before we get started on each of the calls, and hopefully that helps you keep yourself committed and engaged. And what I want to do is to start off by just going through housekeeping as we normally do here. I think by now we all know the rules of engagement for the webinar. From an agenda perspective today, what I wanted to do is, as I had mentioned, go through a couple of the quick emails, which I had just done. Last webinar, we did not get to spend as much time as I would have liked to on revisiting kind of the concept of asking for implied permission to be what I call a pest. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes there. And then the bulk of our presentation today is designed to really start to talk a little bit about how to have impactful weekly and bi-weekly interactions with CPAs who are either part of your Alliance program or who are engaged enough where they have agreed to meet with you on a consistent and regular basis. And hopefully by now we all know how important that is to the process. These guys, just to regress for a quick minute here, revisiting asking for implied permission and having these impactful weekly and bi-weekly interactions. This is where I am now spending with the group that started about a year ago. This is where I'm spending most of my time fielding questions And this is what I've found up to this point is as a group, we've been very successful in getting some CPAs to say yes. So that is phenomenal. One of the things that you've heard me say before is the hard part is getting them to say yes. The harder part is actually teaching them and influencing them and leading them how to ultimately become a good referrer. So what I'm finding is as I said, we're getting CPAs to say yes, they're meeting regularly, they're in licensing, they're joining Alliance programs, they're given a couple of referrals here and there. And where we're not necessarily being as successful as I'd like is cracking the code on leading these CPAs to open up, if you will, the opportunity within their client base as a whole. So that's really the focus of today's webinar. My guess is we will probably carry this forward to the next webinar as well, as I probably, as usual, won't get through all of the material that I had prepared. But I wanted to kind of set the stage. That's the focus of today. And quite frankly, I think we still need to sharpen our skills on the sales process as a whole and still get better at getting the CPAs to say yes. But I think we've done a lot of training there, and I think that I want to shift gears a little bit and just help you be a little bit more comfortable in what these weekly and biweekly interactions should look like, as I'm getting a lot of feedback from advisors in the group who just don't know what to say, and that's why they're not meeting weekly or biweekly. So while it's not rocket science, I've kind of outlined some of the meetings that I have had to help jog your memory and give you some ideas that you can implement. And then again, if time permits, we'll have some time for Q&A today as well, and then discuss any actionable steps for the next webinar. I just described a minute ago that we're getting pretty good at what I'll call is the beginning of the upfront part of the sales process. And I think where I want to, again, sharpen our skill set is on that back end and really in deepening the relationship. So you've seen this slide a million times by now, guys, right? It starts with prospecting, our initial meeting, assumptive thank you, office visit / social meeting, get to a point where we're doing some type of client event planning, what I call get the CPA to do something, right? Whatever that first step is, and then weekly and bi-weekly interaction. So what we're going to focus on today is really that weekly, bi-weekly interaction, which will hopefully then begin to help you create friendships that will last a lifetime with the CPA firms, et cetera. And I want to just take a minute, guys, to again outline the importance of this model. Again, you've heard me say it before, we can't go from A to Z without all of the steps in between. And every time I have a 30-minute call with an advisor that's not having the success that they want, it's always something on this screen that you're looking at that's missing. And what's usually missing is the step where it says weekly and bi-weekly interaction, okay? So I want to make sure that we don't lose focus on the fact that we're doing a good job showing the CPA why we're better and why we're different. They want to work with us, but what we really need to do is focus on developing that relationship through consistency of contact and through providing value and ultimately leading the CPA. Now, with that being said, none of that really is going to work unless we get to a point where we have asked and received implied permission from the CPA. So I want to hit this real quickly, guys, because it continues to be a recurring theme. And again, implied permission is simply getting the CPA to a point where they say, hey, you know what, John, I like you. I think you do good work. I believe you're credible. I want you to help my clients. I think you're in a good position to help my clients, and I want to build something together. Now, building something together could be a joint business where we're sharing revenue. It could be sharing referral fees, or it can simply be a desire to help the CPA's clients, the CPA having a desire to help his or her clients get access or gain access to a knowledgeable advisor, okay? Once you get them to say that, you really need to have a conversation that looks something like this. And generally, the best time to have this conversation is once you've gone through the marketing plan, discussed how to create a joint business. You want to almost do a takeaway and say, hey, Mr. CPA, before we go any further, I want to talk to you about something. So you've seen this script probably before. You know, if the CPA's name was Ken, I'm going to say, hey, Ken, I want to have a conversation with you around everything we've spoken about up to this point. I'm very confident that you and I are on our way to creating a mutually beneficial relationship if we follow the marketing plan we've created and we continue to meet on a weekly and bi-weekly basis as we've agreed. Now, you had to have already had that conversation if you're going to bring that up again, right? And it's important that you're describing that process. I truly believe, Ken, that we will be able to attain the goals that we set up for our partnership, i.e. via our business plan. My only concern is that if we lose focus and do not execute on the plan. I'm then going to share with the CPA, obviously I understand that you have many other things on your plate, and I'm more than willing to take on the responsibility of ensuring that we continue to execute on our plan. In order to do so, I will need to hold us both accountable to sticking to the plan and creating the appointment activity necessary to reach our goals. Hey guys, if we don't have this conversation, we don't have any means of going into a CPA's office and leading them to do what it is we need them to do to be successful. You can't just automatically assume that the CPA is going to follow. You need to ask them for permission. And then I'm going to say something like this. This could become a little awkward, and I wanted to get your permission to be somewhat of a test in order to ensure that you and I stay on track, so that when we look back a year from now, we'll be way on our way to the success that we envisioned for ourselves. Is it okay for me to be a pest in order to ensure we both achieve the goals that we've set out to accomplish? And then you need to be quiet and allow the CPA to hopefully tell you exactly what you want to hear, which is absolutely, John, I want to make this work, I believe in it, and it's okay for you to be a royal pain in my butt in order for us to both get what we want for ourselves. Now, once you get that permission, guys, it is now up to you to ensure that you have the consistency of interaction and that we lead the CPA in the right way. A lot of the advisors in the group, as I dig deeper and kind of troubleshoot why the referrals aren't coming in quite as fast and furious as we've hoped, what I'm finding is this conversation doesn't happen. This is an awkward conversation to have, guys, right? I understand that. But hopefully we all also recognize at this stage of our career, if we don't do things that are uncomfortable, we don't move forward, okay? So I know you've heard me tell you this before, how important this is. I know that you can have the conversation because you have your bullet points sitting right in front of you now, but a lot of us are choosing to not have this conversation, and we're either choosing it because we don't fully understand the significance of it, meaning how important it is to continue to push that relationship forward, or, and I think this is more the issue, we're just not comfortable having the conversation. And what I want to be crystal clear on, guys, is to crack the code on this. The only way we go from getting 3 or 4 clients a year to 15 or 20 is by getting the CPA to follow you. So hopefully that helps frame things out a little bit. With these CPAs that you've now formed a relationship of some type with, if you haven't already had that conversation, or you had it but then didn't act on it, meaning you had it 3 months ago, but then you didn't follow through with the consistency of meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you need to have the conversation again. It doesn't have to be quite as lengthy as what I just shared. You need to just readdress it and say, hey, I know we already talked about this, and I got your commitment, but I want to do it one more time and then share with you the strategy that I have going out over the next number of months, et cetera, which will mean meeting weekly or biweekly. Okay? So I think I've made that pretty clear, and hopefully everybody can understand the importance of having that dialogue and getting that implied permission. If it doesn't exist, you are not going to be close to as successful as you could be if they looked you in the eye and said, hey, John, I want to be successful. It's okay if you be a pain in my butt if we're both going to get what we want that way. That is exactly what we want to hear back. Okay. So switching gears, one of the other pieces of feedback that I've gotten from the group is that, what do I say in these meetings, John? So I'm meeting with the CPA weekly or bi-weekly, but I'm really not sure what I should say in those meetings other than, hey, how are you? You know, what's going on with the family, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how to continue to push the ball forward, so to speak. So what we did is we took a look and said, hey, well, what do we talk about in these meetings? What have we done with the CPAs? And we were able to identify 16 different types of meetings that I've had with CPAs and my team has had. And guys, it's not rocket science, by the way, but I want you to have a track to run on so that you can walk into a meeting and to have, and all it is, guys, is 15 or 20 minutes of business, right? All of these meetings with the CPA should be no longer than 35 to 40 minutes. It's really a quick, hey, how are you? Catch up on things, talk about business meetings. You might be working on a joint referral together, status updates, things along those lines, making small talk. And then it's, hey, you know, Ken, while I was here today, I thought it would be a good idea to spend a few minutes talking about X. And X are these 16 what I call impactful CPA weekly or biweekly interactions. So the goal is quite simple. It's to provide consistent leadership and to continue to focus on building that relationship. You've heard me say before, guys, that the advisors in the group who are going to be most successful in working with these accounting firms are the advisors who are actually leading the CPA and influencing them to do something that they're not comfortable doing. Earlier I said, you know, in order for you to get what you want, you need to have that uncomfortable conversation, right, with the CPA to go ahead and get implied permission. Well, what your job is with the CPA is to use your leadership skills to influence the CPA to do what is uncomfortable to he or she. Because integrating financial services into their practice is not comfortable for them. Asking one of their clients to meet with you is not comfortable with them. Doing a client appreciation event and bringing you up as a guest speaker is not comfortable for them. Okay? We just did an event this past Thursday for one of the advisors in my practice here. We had about 65 of the CPA's clients in the room. Went over very well. Already have a couple of $1 million prospective meetings scheduled. But what I would share with you is the CPA had so much apprehension a day or two before. He was literally, I'll say freaking out for lack of a better term, about who was going to come. What exactly were we serving? Is there going to be alcohol served? What do I say as the CPA? We share with him a script, which you guys have gotten a copy of in the past as well, of how to kick off those meetings. So the point that I'm getting at is our job is to get the CPA to do something that they're naturally going to resist, giving us referrals, doing events, integrating financial planning into their practice. That's what we need to get good at. And the best way, and I want you to really listen to this, it's simple, but it's usually the real simple things in business that are the things that provide and drive the most results. So I know it's going to sound simple, but really all we're attempting to do here, guys, is educate the CPA and have them understand what we do and be a resource to them. That is, in essence, what these interactions are designed to do. And because of the consistency of the interaction, what will happen is you will have more face time with the CPA where you are a teacher You are a consultant, you are a leader, and you are an educator, which in turn will ultimately have the CPA be that much more comfortable following you. All the while, what you'll also be doing is you'll be deepening the relationship, because you will be building more of a friendship when you spend 40 or 45 minutes together every week or every other week with someone. In a quality time setting, you start to really get to know someone and build that friendship that we look for life. So I just, again, want you to understand why it's so significant to have these meetings. We want to educate the CPA around the financial planning process. We want to help the CPA become more effective in referring. We've got to teach them how to do it in these meetings. We're going to build credibility and have the CPA, as I mentioned a minute ago, view you as their consultant. You know, guys, it's very common, right, when you go into a meeting with somebody and one person has a track to run on and the other one is not prepared to have a track to run on, it's very, very natural to figure out who the leader is in that situation. So when you come into a meeting and there is no agenda, there is no teaching, there is no subject matter, what happens is you're just having a conversation. You're having a lunch with somebody, you're having a cup of coffee, you're making small talk, and that's all there is to it. I want these meetings to be a little of what I just said, but I want there to be an opportunity for you to show the CPA something or teach the CPA something that they didn't already know. And that in and of itself, guys, is going to help you to build credibility. And remember, somebody is going to follow somebody that has a plan. And because you're going to have a plan, the CPA is naturally going to follow you as long as you can deliver this in a consistent, professional manner. Like I had just mentioned, we want to follow someone with a plan. We need to demonstrate that credibility as a whole. So with that, guys, I'm going to go through a handful. I don't know if I'll get through all 16 today, but I want to spend some time going through as many as I can get through today as to examples of what I do in meetings with the CPA. Okay? And these are just 16 ideas. If I really want, I'd probably come up with another 10 or 15, and I'm sure you can add to this. And there may be some best practices that some of us in the group are already doing, which I'd love to hear about if you don't hear it mentioned today. But one example, guys, is to go through a case analysis with the CPA. And what I'm going to provide you with for each of these, by the way, guys, I'm going to provide you with sort of a track to run on, some bullet points to hit, in some cases some material or collateral that we've developed for meetings like this with CPAs, so that you can see what we're actually showing them. And then it's for you to find a track to run on and to pick all or some of these that are going to be a good fit for you, your practice, and your style. What I do want to make sure that you understand is when you come into this meeting, I mean, this is kind of how you set the stage, right? So my first interaction with the CPA, and this is in no order, by the way, guys. You don't have to follow this order. But I'm going to come to the CPA's office. I'm going to sit down. We're going to make small talk, right? And this is kind of how each of these 16 meetings are going to go. I'm going to come in and it's Ken Cerrito and go, hey, Ken, what's going on? Hey, just wanted to let you know, that I met with Mr. and Mrs. Jones last week for a follow-up meeting. They've been clients, as you know, for a couple of months. Things are going well. They seem happy. We made this change and that change, but things are going really well. I know we met with the Smiths. They haven't called me back yet. You know, if you wouldn't mind, maybe today while I'm here, we could put a call into the Smiths and see if we can get them back on the calendar, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to talk about my kids' football game this weekend and talk about how the Jets did or the Giants did or whatever it may be. And I'm going to spend 15 or 20 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch gears in that meeting. And I'm going to say, you know, Ken, one of the things that I realized that, I haven't really done with you is gone through what I would call a case analysis. So it's not going to take a lot of time, but what I wanted to do with you today is to just spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes just kind of giving you an example of a client that I work with and kind of what I see and what you'll see as a CPA when you meet with somebody and what the potential opportunities are as to how I can be referred in that situation and how I can ultimately be a resource to the client. So I took the liberty of putting together some information. I'll go through that with you guys in a minute. But the idea is to really start to educate the CPA. Now, one of the things that you can do in a meeting like this, guys, is you can use the story that Ken and I share, which is a true story about when we first started working together, when I would show up at Ken's office on a regular basis to have Ken reach out to his clients to set up the consultation, just like you should be doing with your CPAs, and I call it Ken Took a Phone Call. And for those of you who don't remember that story, this is a great way to open up a meeting like this case analysis meeting, where I'm going to say, hey, I was sitting in Ken's office, and you could use this as if it's your own story or create your own, and Ken took a phone call. And I'm going to go quick, guys, because I know most of you guys have heard this. And I heard one side of the conversation, right? Ken was talking to one of his clients, and Ken was saying, well, I know somebody at this hospital or that hospital. Perhaps I can get you an interview there. And I wrote down on a piece of paper, well, Ken, what about Mr. Smith's 403B plan? And at the end of the day, Ken said that to his client. His client wanted to meet with me, and we then picked up a client that way. So I tell a story like that, guys, so that the CPA starts to recognize that he or she doesn't know what he or she doesn't know. And that by going through a sample of a case analysis, we may be able to help educate the CPA, this is what I'm sharing with them, as to how they can identify referable moments or referable opportunities. So create a hypothetical. You can use real-life client case to teach case analysis. The CPA is supposed to learn how to uncover financial planning opportunities, address their financial needs. And then this is a sample, which we will, as we always do, send you guys a copy of today's webinar that you can use. So related to the CPA's daily activities, preparing 1040, small business owner client analysis, things that they do in their practice so you can show what sort of a typical or an ordinary client that would be a typical client of that CPA firm. So real quick, guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but you guys can use this in a meeting if you'd like, or you can create your own. But here's a sample of a case analysis that I use when I'm meeting with CPAs and that my group uses. So here's Mr. and Mrs. Jones, right? A little bit about them. They work for a local power company. Mrs. Jones is a teacher. Their goal is to retire in 4 years. Risk tolerance is moderate. Their income, projected pensions, what their 401k balance is, along with their allocations, what Mrs. Jones's 403B allocation is, along with the allocation. Mr. and Mrs. Jones had a Fidelity IRA, along with the allocation, CDs at the bank, life insurance. Again, I don't need to read it all to you guys. A mortgage with a balance of $140,000 at 8% interest. They don't have long-term care. They don't have wills. Sort of a typical client, right? I think this is an ordinary client. And I'll go through this with the CPA in a little bit more detail than I just did on this call. And then I'll say, as I look at this situation, here are some of the things that we see, some of the potential opportunities. We could be doing a retirement projection for the client. Let me share with you what that looks like. Since their goals are retirement, let me share with you what we do and really what a financial analysis would do. There's a potential to refinance their mortgage. Hey, Mr. CPA, did you know that we have the ability to do that? We also do mortgages. That may spark a whole new conversation with the CPA. Wills. What about a power of attorney, healthcare, property, living will, etc.? Review CDs from a tax implication viewpoint, right? Is that taxable interest and is that yield appropriate to this particular client? We should review all investment portfolios from a risk tolerance viewpoint. Looks like they're heavily weighted in equities for a moderate risk tolerance, right? So again, this is, guys, to you and I, this is very, very elementary. To a CPA, this is teaching them when a client comes in and says, could you take a look at my account, to real quickly understand to just look at their equity to fixed income allocation. When a CPA does a return and there's a CD producing $3,500 in taxable interest, to be able to identify that there might be other alternatives. Are they maximizing their qualified plan savings? Can we do a potential in-service distribution? And does the CPA know what that is? Pension flexibility options. Which option are they going to take on their pension? Long-term care options, right? We know they don't have any. Any estate issues, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully, guys, what that does is it gives you a track to run on. There were a lot of other opportunities that we could have identified from that, that example on the previous slide. But what this does is it starts to help the CPA think like you and I. And one of the reasons that Ken and I have had a lot of success, and many of the other accounting firms that we're now working with are beginning to have a lot of success, is they're learning about our business. And they're learning about our business because I'm taking the time and my team's taking the time to meet with them every week or every other week and to continue to educate them. When we educate them, they are going to be in a much better position to find opportunities for you and I, et cetera. Okay, so that would be an example, guys, 15, 20 minutes, right, of material that I believe is powerful, that teaches the CPA something that they didn't know before, and most importantly, educates them about the scope of the work and the advice that you give, and hopefully helps begin to jog their memory of potential opportunities right then and there that they can refer to you. So here's what I will call a secondary meeting. So meeting number 2 that you could do with the CPA. I will call it meeting with the CPA staff, right? Most CPAs are going to have at least one staff person, if not more. On one of your visits to the CPA's office, I would suggest that you pre-schedule with the CPA the ability to meet with some of the staff members, if not all of the staff members. This could be done at a staff meeting, or if it's a small practice, it could just be informally, hey, can I grab the staff person or two that work in your office to join us in on our weekly or biweekly interaction here. The goal is to build staff awareness, explain what you do as a financial advisor. Guys, I'm not sure if everybody realizes this, but if there is staff in a practice, chances are, just like your practice, the staff has as much, if not more, interaction with the client than the CPA that you're dealing with, the managing principal of that firm or the managing partner of that firm. Also, the clients we want are primarily 1040 clients, right? That's what we're looking for. That's the goal in the CPA's business, and of course small business owners as well. Most CPAs are not necessarily sitting down and creating tax returns themselves. There's somebody communicating with the client, doing the data entry, and then having the CPA or the senior partner ultimately review the return for quality and sign off on the return. So the person who has the most interaction is the staff, but many times the staff doesn't understand anything about the relationship that you've built with his or her managing partner. So this is important, and I think a lot of advisors forget how to do it. You want to identify key team members for skill building, and that's going to be done through the CPA. Consider using the material from the CPA office visit to illustrate what you do. So as an example, by now, hopefully we all have a presentation that when the CPA comes to your office for the second visit, for that office visit, that you do your show and tell meeting. Take that show and tell meeting and bring it to the CPA staff. And that, again, we've done webinars on this, guys, is going through a sample financial plan, going through your website, a Morningstar, something that shows realized gains, losses, etc. But educate that CPA staff person so they understand what you do as well. Teach the staff how to properly refer. And I'll, again, use the scripts that we've given you as part of your training manual so that the staff understands. Remember, guys, if it's hard to get the managing partner, who is most likely the most developed, seasoned CPA in the office, to give a referral the right way, right? Not a business card or, give John a call, but while you're here, let me call John and schedule a time for us to get together. If they're not ready for it and they're not at a high level of execution, chances are their staff will be even at a lower level of execution. So I'll show you the script that we use, but take a minute and go through that script and teach the staff person how to properly give a referral. Provide marketing material. Make sure that they know when you have client events. Make sure that they know that there's a complimentary portfolio review certificate. Make them your ally, right? Hey, I know Ken isn't always the greatest at this, but each one of your clients, when you're preparing that tax return and you're dropping it in the mail, could you do me a favor? Ken already said it was okay. Could you drop this complimentary portfolio review certificate in the envelope as well? When you deliver one in person, can you make sure they get it as well? And right now I have them up in your lobby, as you've probably seen, displayed on the reception desk. If it gets low, can you make sure you let me know so I can fill them up and make sure that they're always there for your client? Okay? The staff many times is your most important ally. You know, review the CPA firm's own 401k plan as a way to educate the staff. You know, I say keep it simple. But one of the things that we've done as a courtesy is we've said to the CPA, hey, do you offer your employees a 401k? How would you like for me to sit down with each and every one of your employees and help educate them on the options that are available in the 401k as a courtesy? What I'm now doing is I'm building credibility with the staff. And I'm going to take my time to review the 15 mutual funds that they have, their age, their risk tolerance, their goals, create an allocation, explain why I'm picking the allocation that I am, take a minute, go through a Morningstar report or a Thompson or whatever you use, educate a little bit about risk, betas, alphas, quartile performance, value versus growth investing. Not too much to scare them away, but enough where they'll walk away going, wow, this John guy was a nice guy. He helped me reallocate my 401k. He took the time and had the patience to do that. And in addition to that, he taught me a little bit about investing money. Now, we've done this, guys, and what usually happens is you wind up taking that staff person on as a client because they usually have some other financial planning needs out there as well. And as we all know, if the CPA and his or her staff are your client, that's one of the best possible ways to get yourself into a position where the CPA is going to be comfortable referring or the staff is going to be comfortable referring because they firsthand know the value of what you bring to the table in your practice. Consider creating consistent interactions with staff if appropriate. If the CPA will allow you to, see if the staff would be willing to meet with you once a month. See if there's a staff meeting that you can plug into. And if again, you have to ask permission for that because you don't want to take the staff's time without the CPA's blessing. But if the CPA is okay with it, if there's a key staff person, it would be great for that person to maybe join you and the CPA in every other meeting that you have at the CPA's office for your weekly, bi-weekly interaction. Okay? But there are some ideas that we have. This is an example of what the script looks like, right? So I would actually review this with the staff person. Okay, and I'm not going to read this to you guys for sake of time. You've all seen it. But this really pinpoints, if you go to the third bullet point to the bottom, many of our clients are already working with them, and I'd like to suggest that you and your spouse come into our office to meet with the advisor and myself to do an audit of your current financial picture. I'm telling you, CPAs eat up and their staff eat up that word audit. And then the last bullet point, I'm truly concerned for your financial well-being and would feel much better knowing that I understand your financial goals and I confirm that you are on the right track. Okay? So hopefully, guys, that gives you another full meeting that you can do where you're educating the staff. And, of course, you can add anything you'd like to that. For a third meeting idea, guys, I will call it present office branding opportunities. So, again, same scenario. We come in, we make our 15 minutes of small talk, and then I'm going to say, hey, Ken, you know what? One of the things that I thought would be a good idea today is I wanted to just throw out some ideas that I had to talk about how to do some co-branding together as a team here. We really haven't talked about that. I had some ideas. Some you might like, some you may not. but I brought some material with me today, and I'd like to run through some of it with you. So the idea is to build awareness with the client base. The following should be prominently displayed in the CPA's office. And this is what I'm going to have in my bag of tricks. Obviously, everything needs to be approved by your compliance department. My business card. If you've met with a dozen CPAs, how many of those dozen CPAs, if I sat in the reception area right now, would your business card be displayed in? So I'm just going to say, Ken, one of the things I'd like to do, and I brought a nice little business card holder here, is to just have my business cards out here so I really begin to look like an arm of your firm. I also have a copy of my advisor bio, and I whip out my glossy bio that talks about who I am, my specialties, my team, how long I've been doing it, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to also have this displayed in your lobby, if that's okay. I've also brought 8 different brochures with me today, Ken. They all have the Ameriprise name on it. There's a stamp or my business card attached to each one. I'm not necessarily saying this, guys, but I'm telling them this. I'm telling you that that's what we want to do. And I'm taking out a brochure on estate planning, on asset management, on long-term care, on whatever it is that you'd like to have in their lobby. Most CPA firms have a magazine rack or have some type of display area where they will put their own information. Why not have our information there? And believe it or not, guys, well, a lot of us can go to our BD and get brochures like I just mentioned for free. A lot of times CPAs don't have that ability. They have to go out and pay to bring those brochures in. So when we can do it, it also saves them money. They don't care if it says their firm name in many cases or our firm name. If I can give them a beautiful glossy estate planning brochure, they don't need to pay $150 for 500 of them, that's value. So I'd bring that in and say, hey, would this be something that we can display? The complimentary portfolio review certificates that we all have. Any positive press or articles. One of the things we're trying to do in our practice right now is get a reprint of our Barron's article in every CPA that we've ever met's office. If you happen to get a great client satisfaction score, became an advanced advisor or senior advisor within your broker-dealer, qualified for a trip, won whatever award, $1 Million Round Table, you name it, if there's something positive or you were recently in the newspaper for some type of positive press, would it be okay if they displayed that as well? Bring a copy of it. Here's something that I learned from another advisor in the program that we're working on doing as well. Hey, you know what? If you go out and play golf with a CPA, take plenty of pictures and send them a picture. And before you know it, what you might find is a picture of you and the CPA sitting in their reception area or sitting behind their desk at their credenza in their office. What happens, guys, anytime you can connect yourself to the CPA firm, what winds up happening is to a client, when the CPA is referring you, and then he can pull out a picture behind his desk and go, here's John. In fact, this was from a golf outing that John and I were in about 1.5 years ago. He's a great guy, but he's a lousy golfer, right? All of a sudden, the client says, well, Ken Cerini must be pretty good friends with John, seeing that there's a picture of him behind the desk. I bet, yeah, I can trust this guy, okay? So, again, guys, just ideas. Not everyone is right for you. Joint venture announcement letter, which, again, you already have in your books and material that we've handed you, but you want to review this in a meeting. Hey, Ken, I might have hit this with you before, I don't remember, but we haven't yet sent a letter to your clients announcing that you've created a financial planning arm. Let me show you an example of what that looks like, and maybe this is something we can get out. Consider partnering on charitable endeavors, right? So if you in your own practice have any charitable inclination, CPA firms many times do the same type of work. So as an example, for years we've done a program called Toys for Tots with Cerini's office. If you do any kind of drive, fundraising, etc., for your own practice, invite the CPA to be part of it and brand it. Get it in the press. Cutman Associates and Cerini Associates partner on the Toys for Tots program. All of a sudden, that's displayed in their office. How about a menu of tax and financial planning services offered? If the CPA has something like that, you want to make sure that you are part of that program. Any upcoming client appreciation events can actually be branded in the office. If you have a seminar or client event going up, it should be in the CPA's office. What we do is we take a little frame, like a clear frame, and we'll put seminar invitations in it so that it's displayed, I should say, one in it, and then a stack of 50 in front of it. And again, clients are going to be walking in and out of that office. When a CPA is endorsing an event, guess what? The client is much more likely to ask and come. Any educational seminars that you have going on. Consider using firm-branded giveaways. Are your broker-dealer pens or your firm name pens at the accountant's office? Calculators, coffee mugs. Consider sponsoring coffee service, right? I know of an advisor who actually has bought a Keurig machine for each CPA firm he's trying to work with, and right next to that Keurig machine it says coffee compliments of XYZ financial advisory firm, okay? Little things, guys, that we can do to really have the client feel when they walk into that office that you and the CPA are true partners, and it becomes very easy for financial planning to begin to come up in conversation as a whole. Okay, that was a long meeting, but if you're prepared for that, you literally are handing pieces of paper to the CPA and say, I'd love to put this in your lobby, I'd love to put this in your lobby, I'd love to mail this to your clients. I know you don't need to do all these, Ken, but which of these are you comfortable with? Am I buying the Keurig machine? Are we sending the letter? Or are we just going to put my business cards on the desk, right? Let's pick 3 of the 20 ideas I just gave you, and let's choose one. Again, we're pushing the ball forward in 2-week increments, right? I'm presenting it to you one after the other, which to me, I'm probably sitting back as an advisor going, man, I'm being salesy here. But the reality is the CPA already gave you implied permission, right? They already said, I want to make this work. And now what you're doing is softly saying, here are some ideas that I had. What do you think? Give me your feedback. And ultimately, they're going to like some of them. And at the very least, you can check off your list, tried it, they said no. But you, more often than not, you're going to get tried it, and they said yes. Okay. Another idea for a meeting, guys, which I will call interaction number 4. Review your website with the CPA. It should be user-friendly. Now, as simple as that might sound, guys, do you think a CPA has ever really gone on your website and seen all of the resources available? I know my website I'm very proud of. I think we have a really good website, which I'm looking to enhance always. So here's why it's important. Number 1, if the CPA is aware of what's on your website, they will be able to identify opportunities to tell a client to come visit your website, right? So if they know what's on there and they know there's tools and research and analysis and events announcements, they could very easily, when a question comes up, say, hey, why don't you check out the Cutton & Associates website? Show them financial calculators, market research, analysis, events. Discuss web-based tools, how clients can get access, gain losses, unrealized versus realized gains, RMD calculation. We have the capacity on our website. Hopefully many of you have the same. You want to show the CPA how robust your website is. Share with them about the newsletters that are posted on your website, if you have them. Most firms, if you have a decent website, should have your newsletter, market updates, things along those lines. Let the CPA see what you have. Go through upcoming events so the CPA starts to recognize that your website can be a resource to them. And then I think most importantly, my goal here is to show the CPA just how good of a resource my website is, and then to have the conversation about hyperlinking websites. This is something we're trying to do with all the firms we work with, where the CPA firm will have a tab on their website that says financial planning. And when they hit that financial planning tab, what pops up is my company's website, which when you think about that for a minute, guys, how better to create the impression that you and the accounting firm are a true partnership than actually being part of their website, okay? So again, this is 10 or 15 minutes, guys, not a long, long process. As you're going through your website, if you have your team on there, explain the roles and responsibilities. So, you know, on my team, I'd go, this is Eric, and here's what Eric does for the firm. This is Ashley and what she does for the firm. And I go through the list. So again, the CPA is again, hearing again and understanding even better exactly how my firm operates, etc. Moving forward, I think I'll go through one more here, guys, and then I have some good stuff to wrap up with in the last 5 minutes or so, so bear with me for a minute. Here's a fifth weekly or biweekly interaction. Educate the CPA on investment and risk management products. Now, guys, I call this one meeting. This could probably be broken into 10 meetings. Every time you sit with a CPA, there's an opportunity to educate them about a product, right? So take 15 minutes to explain what an annuity is and how it works, and what a living benefit feature is, and the fees associated with annuities, and the death benefit guaranteed associated with annuities. Do the same about a managed discretionary mutual fund account, or about ETFs, etc. So best practice tip as well, use wholesalers. One of the things that we've started to do is to have our wholesalers come with us to meet CPAs to show that we have a team and other value. So if you have a favorite wholesaler that you want to bring in to talk about real estate investment trusts, bring them in. If you have a wholesaler who does a great job with life insurance, bring them in. If you have a wholesaler who does a great job with annuities, you get where I'm going, bring them in. And now what you've done, or retirement plans is another great subject. So what you've now done is not only are you providing value, but you are bringing in other resources that could be valuable to the CPA firm as well. And most wholesalers would be happy to do it because they know it's a source of potential new business for their company. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, guys. These are just some of the ideas, right? Mutual funds, managed accounts, individual securities, ETFs, bonds, REITs, leveraged investments, inverse leveraged investments, things along those lines, CDs, continuing on here. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you get the idea. There are a million products out there that if you're not sure what to talk to a CPA about, I don't think you need to go into detail on each and every one of these particular products, but I think there's probably 5 or 6 core products that most of us use in their practice, in our practices, I should say, that it would be a very good idea for you to consider educating the CPA. Number one, you're educating them on a product that they will be better able to identify opportunities. Number two, what you're also doing is you're continuing to build credibility by showing the CPA just how much you know about these products, and that there's more to XYZ product than meets the eye. And I try to literally go detailed into this type of stuff so the CPA understands the cost and the benefits and the pros and the cons, and where it's a good fit to use a certain product and where it might not be such a good fit to use a certain product. So again, you get the idea, guys, and again, you'll get a copy of all of the slides that we've gone through, but this would be, to me, you can do a dozen weekly or biweekly interactions with CPAs going through these different types of product offerings as well. So with that, it looks like I'm just about an hour in here. So what I want to do before I open up for Q&A is to go through and to chat a little bit. And by the way, guys, we will actually hit the rest of what to do in these weekly, biweekly interactions as well as we actually do our next webinar also. But what I wanted to do is switch gears a little bit, as a lot of us in this first group that we started on actually are either winding down your 12-month commitment to the program, and then a bunch of us started about 2 months later and will be winding down in January. So I've done probably about, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 12 calls with advisors who are in the process of winding down that first 12-month program. And I've gotten a lot of requests to continue the program in some capacity. And I've actually solicited feedback from a lot of the advisors who've now been in the program for a year to help put together a program that I think would be very valuable to the group. So I want to take about 3 or 4 minutes to just explain to you kind of what year 2 could look like if you wanted to. And understand, guys, there's no obligation to extend. My belief is, especially for those of you who are either having success or have not yet had success, which I guess is probably everybody, what I don't want you to do is lose momentum, and what I also don't want you to do is to get into a position that you need me or you need Ken 6 months from now, but unfortunately you're no longer part of the program, in which case, obviously, we really can't be on joint calls and helping and doing some of the things that we've done. So here's what we created, okay? And by the way, guys, I'm open to other suggestions as I haven't talked to everybody just yet, but I did poll about half of the group that's been in the first 20 that started in the program. So the first thing that would be part of the year 2 program would be what I call a CPA roundtable meeting. And what this would be is a full 1-day program in New York, just like when you came out to New York, many of you, for the initial training. And the idea is it would be what I will call a roundtable meeting. So it will be facilitated by Ken and I, but the idea of the program is to really have the group share what their experiences have been, what their successes have been, what their failures have been, and have an opportunity to learn from each other. And I opened the call with a couple of emails. There are varying levels of success. There are some advisors in the program that have over 4 or 5 CPAs that they have relationships with. There are some advisors who yet to really crack the code and establish any, and most are in the middle. So I believe there's a tremendous opportunity for us to learn from each other and for me and Ken to add value with the issues that you're having, et cetera. And I expect that to be very organized, where we will kind of have agenda items, and I'll set the stage, and I'm making this up right now, but say, hey, we're going to have an hour and a half to talk about marketing and sales process, what's working and what's not working. We're going to have an hour to talk about events, what's working and what's not working. An hour to talk about how to get a referral, how to do a meeting, the weekly, bi-weekly interactions, how to have your team embrace this whole CPA work, and kind of roles and responsibilities and structure and things along those lines. So I personally think that would be tremendously valuable. I've participated in a roundtable meeting like this with other CAC advisors around the country, and every time I've done one, I've gotten a ton out of it. But this would be specific to the CPA work, obviously. In addition, one of the things that we're going to add is what I will call a financial advisor and CPA partner full-day training, also in New York. And I think what I'm going to try to do, guys, don't quote me on this, but I'm going to try to create kind of like the roundtable meeting on a let's say a Thursday, and then the financial advisor CPA partner training on a Friday, so that you don't have to travel to New York once. But the idea, and we might do this twice throughout the year in case the first date doesn't work for you or your group. But the idea of the financial advisor and CPA partner full-day training is for you to actually travel to New York with the CPA partner of yours, so someone who is in your Alliance program or someone that would be willing to learn more about how to be successful integrating financial planning into their practice. Ken and I, again, will facilitate and teach, and the idea of this is to really help you as a group build your marketing plan out and help build the CPA skill set, really to teach the CPA how to identify opportunities, give referrals, speak to their clients, deal with their partners, deal with their staff, so that they can learn firsthand from Ken and I, but more from Ken, and how to really be successful at this. So I think that that is a huge opportunity. You know, think about it. If all Ken and I did was, if you got the CPA to come out here and we were able to ultimately help the CPA give you an extra couple of referrals a year for the rest of your career by getting them to refer the right way, or convincing them that doing a client event or workshops is a good idea, to me, let us kind of be the role model and sell this for you. So I think that was an idea actually that I came up with, and I think that that would be phenomenal. If I was an advisor, I would love that. In fact, I will be sending my own CPAs to that program as well. In addition, we'll do 3 financial advisor and CPA webinars, kind of like the full day that I just described in New York, but throughout the year we'll do 3 of these for the CPA or financial advisor that don't want to travel to New York. So same type of thing, but an hour format instead of a full day, still getting some good information out of it, but I want to give you a second opportunity to be able to have the CPA speak with Ken and I. It's not designed to sell the CPA on why they should incorporate financial planning. It's designed to teach the CPA how to be successful. They've already chosen to do it, so now we're going to teach them how to do it successfully. Now, I'm a little biased, but I like the idea of traveling to New York, and I'll tell you why. I think the most valuable part of that opportunity is the fact that you are going to jump on a plane with your new CPA partner, and you're going to spend 24 hours with them. And my initial thought, if we don't have a huge group, is probably the night before, maybe to do a nice dinner that Ken and I would attend, and we'll all kind of mingle together and get to know each other a little bit, and kind of, you know, wine and dine the CPA a little bit as well. So that is, I like the idea of the live training better than the webinars, but I want to have the webinars too, as it might not always be possible to get someone to come out here in New York. And then in addition, guys, you still get your 3 30-minute phone consultations with either Ken or I, because I know how valuable, at least the feedback I'm getting, those have been. I just got an email yesterday from an advisor who needs 30 minutes of Ken's time to talk to a CPA. The feedback we're getting is when we're on the phone with CPAs, we're helping close the deal. And then the other piece is, as you need help troubleshooting, what do? You still have access to me for 30 minutes 3 times a year. If you need me to help you with sales stuff or how to approach things, etc. You'd also continue to have access via email, as you do today, for all questions. So if you have a quick question about something, we get 5 or 6 emails a day from the group. As you guys know, I think we're pretty good at getting right back to everybody. So you continue to have that access to us to be able to use when you want. And then in addition, I'd invite you to attend the full day training workshop that you've already attended. So when we kick this thing off with the full day, at no charge, you can come back and attend it again. We're going to continue to do these out in New York. Number one, it could be a good refresher for you. I've had a bunch of advisors who've gone through the training twice. Everyone said it was worthwhile going through it a second time, because when they went through it the first time, they had no idea what they were doing. Now that they know what they're doing, what I say makes a lot more sense, and the questions that they're able to come up with are much more specific because they've been out in the field doing it. And then in addition, even if you don't want to come, maybe you have a junior associate or an associate advisor or a staff person who you'd like to also be trained in how to do this. They're more than welcome to come on their own or to join you. So with that, I wanted to close things up, and we can quickly open up the line for Q&A.